Hey everyone, and welcome back to NT Coins World. Today, we've got a fascinating look at two specific Washington quarters that you should definitely pay attention to if you're a coin collector or investor. We're diving into a 1967 Washington quarter and a 1971 D Washington quarter, both in fine condition, but with different historical and market values. These coins have some incredible stories to tell, and you might be surprised by their potential worth. Whether you're a seasoned numismatist or just getting started, understanding these coins is key to growing your collection. So grab your magnifying glass because we're about to take a deep dive into the world of Washington quarters. Let's start with the 1967 Washington quarter, a coin from a year that might seem relatively recent compared to some of the older pieces in the collection, but it still holds a significant place in the history of US coinage. First, let's talk about the mintage. The 1967 Washington quarter was produced in large quantities, with a total of over 1.6 billion quarters minted in that year alone. Despite the high mintage, the 1967 Washington quarter is still an important piece due to the historical context in which it was made. It represents a time when the US was in the midst of significant social and political change, including the ongoing civil rights movement and the Vietnam War. These events were impacting the entire nation, and as such, every coin minted during this time carries a piece of that history. In terms of design, the 1967 Washington quarter features the iconic portrait of George Washington, designed by John Flanagan, which was first introduced in 1932. The reverse shows an eagle, which has been a staple of US coinage for decades. The Washington quarter, as a whole, is a testament to American tradition and patriotism, and it's the design that has endured for much of the 20th century. Now you might be wondering, what makes the 1967 Washington quarter so valuable, especially in fine condition? Well, even though the coin itself was mass-produced, some specific factors can impact its market value. Fine condition means the coin is showing some signs of wear, but it's still in decent shape overall. There may be minor scratches and some loss of detail, but the design is still mostly visible. In terms of value, a 1967 Washington quarter in fine condition generally ranges from $3 to $8, but when considering the right buyer or market, you can occasionally see prices climb higher. It's a coin that collectors will appreciate, but it's not one you should expect to see commanding a large amount unless there's something particularly unique about it, such as a rare error or other distinguishing features. That said, this coin can still hold potential for collectors who are interested in Washington quarters, especially if they are putting together a complete series or focusing on a specific time period in US history. The fact that this coin is tied to the turbulent 1960s adds a layer of intrigue that can make it a desirable piece for some. As we move forward, keep in mind that some 1967 quarters have been found with small errors, such as die cracks or off-center strikes, that could increase their value. These types of errors are relatively rare but can make the coin even more valuable. So if you happen to come across a 1967 quarter with any unique features, it's worth getting it professionally graded. All right, now that we've covered the 1967 Washington quarter, let's shift gears and take a look at a coin from a few years later, the 1971 D Washington quarter. This coin, minted in Denver, has its own fascinating history and unique characteristics that set it apart from the 1967 piece. The second coin. Moving on to the 1971 D Washington quarter, we're stepping into a slightly different era. By the early 1970s, the US economy was facing inflation, and there was a shift in how coins were produced and used. In fact, 1971 was a pivotal year for American coinage because it marked the end of the production of 40% silver quarters, with the 1970 quarter being the last one made from silver. The 1971 D Washington quarter is composed of copper nickel clad, a significant departure from the earlier silver compositions. This was part of a larger trend in the US minting process, where coins were being made with cheaper metals to counteract the rising costs of precious metals. The D mint mark indicates that this particular quarter was struck at the Denver Mint, which is one of the key mints in the US alongside Philadelphia and San Francisco. The 1971 D Washington quarter features the same design as earlier Washington quarters, with the profile of George Washington on the obverse and an eagle on the reverse. But even though the coin might seem similar in design to the 1967 quarter, the historical context is different. The 1970s saw the country grappling with economic issues like inflation, which often had a direct impact on the production of coins. The fact that these quarters were minted with clad composition instead of silver further reflects the changes happening at the time. When it comes to condition, a fine 1971 D Washington quarter shows moderate wear. The design will still be recognizable, but it won't be as sharp as a mint state coin. The details in Washington's hair and the eagle's feathers will be softened due to circulation, but the overall structure of the coin will still be in clear view. In terms of value, a 1971 D Washington quarter in fine condition doesn't hold as much of a premium as some older or rarer quarters. Generally, you're looking at a price range of about $3 to $6. However, that doesn't mean it's entirely without value. Like the 1967 Washington quarter, the 1971 D quarter can become more valuable under the right circumstances. For example, if you come across a coin with a particular minting error, such as a double die or a misstruck coin, its value can rise significantly. One of the most intriguing aspects of the 1971 D Washington quarter is its potential for finding minting errors, which can make it stand out in the marketplace. Some collectors focus specifically on the errors of 1970s coinage, looking for varieties like repunched mint marks, double dies, or even off-center strikes. These errors may not be extremely common, but when they do pop up, they can lead to significant increases in value. So while the base value of a 1971 D Washington quarter in fine condition might not be staggering, don't overlook the possibility of finding a variety that could substantially increase its worth. So there you have it. 2 Washington quarters, both from different eras, but both holding a unique place in US coinage history. The 1967 Washington quarter, with its connection to the 1960s and large mintage, is a piece that tells the story of a turbulent time in American history, while the 1971 D Washington quarter highlights the shift to more modern coin production and the end of silver coinage. As we've seen, both of these coins are valuable in their own right, though neither will likely fetch a huge sum unless you're lucky enough to find a rare error or variety. If you're lucky enough to find one of these in exceptional condition or with a unique feature, though, you could be holding on to something more valuable than you realize. For collectors, especially those interested in building a complete set of Washington quarters, these pieces can be great additions to your collection. They provide a connection to important historical periods and are relatively accessible in terms of cost. As always, if you come across one of these coins or any other rare finds, make sure to have it graded by a professional. You never know what hidden potential it might have. Thanks for tuning in to NT Coins World. Be sure to like, subscribe, and comment below if you have any questions or if you found any interesting Washington quarters in your collection. Stay tuned for more coin tips and history, and keep collecting.